Are we gonna meme this intro? Let's meme this intro. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Alanis. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Are we posing?
Just lean this way a little bit for me, madam, if you could.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how someone could spend their days ripping around, traveling the world, and going to car races. And if you are wondering that, there's no reason I should keep it a secret from you. I'm Alanis King, and I review cars for a living. I also cover motorsports, and I wrote a book about Formula One. I've been in this industry for more than 10 years, and I've worked full-time for places like Cars and Bids, Jalopnik, and Business Insider. I currently work full-time for Motor One and Motorsport.com, and I've freelanced for different outlets like Donut Media, Top Gear, Road and Track, and ESPN. I also run this YouTube channel where I talk about cars, motorsports, and everything in between. I've got a new series on here called Crash Course, where I take you on deep dives of everything you could possibly want to know. And I get so many comments and messages and emails asking me how I got into this for a living. So I'm gonna tell you. Welcome to class. We're going to break this video into 5 segments. The first is how I got my start in this industry and how I stayed in it as life and the media landscape changed. The second one is going to be what specific skills you need to be in this industry, and also how to monetize your place in it. The third is networking from square zero. What to do, what not to do, and what networking actually gets you. The fourth is building a personal brand online, because although you will hope this comes naturally, just like I did, it usually doesn't, and this is an increasingly crowded landscape. And the fifth and final segment is, what is a dream job? What does that mean? Let's start with how I got my start in this industry and how I made it stick. I am not just recapping my work history for the heck of it here. At every step, I want to tell you what my mindset was and also what my strategy was. And this goes back to when I was a kid. I remember being in elementary school, and adults would always ask, what do all of you want to be when you grow up? And every single person had an answer. They wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or the president. And I would just sit there because I didn't have an answer. In 2009, still battling with this, my mother got free tickets to a NASCAR race at Texas Motor Speedway. I didn't know anything about NASCAR, and I did not want to go. But 2009 was the Great Recession, and my mom said, if you want to do anything fun this year, we are gonna go to NASCAR. And I was like, okay, great, I guess we're gonna do that. So we drove to Texas Motor Speedway, and I remember when we first got there, it was like this glass palace. It's a 1.5-mile oval, and the whole track just rose up from the ground. It was the biggest facility I'd ever seen, and that was when I was really like, oh, there's a lot of weight to this. We walked into the track, and my mother saw a shirt with Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s face on it, and she said, that's Dale Jr. And I said, who's Dale Jr.? And she said, Dale Sr.'s son. And I said, who's Dale Sr.? So as you can tell, we are starting from literally square zero here. But we walked up into the grandstands and we sat down. And I remember feeling like I could see the end of the earth from here. This was such a massive facility that had so much weight to it. And I really realized how big of a production this was. About 40 cars took the green flag at this race. And I just remember everyone stands up and watches them come at you, and they roar by and they shake the grandstands and they shriek a hole in your ears. You would never believe how loud this is. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is it. The drama of it all, the loudness, the earth shaking, the pit choreography. I don't know what this is, but this is what I want to do with my life. And so that's what I did. I went home and I never missed another NASCAR race after that. I watched every single broadcast of NASCAR's top 3 United States National Series, which is like 100 races a year. And all I did was pay attention to this. I bought books about NASCAR. I read everything online. And as I was deciding what exactly within motorsports and cars I was gonna do, I didn't see a lot of women in competition roles in NASCAR. Most of the time, I saw them in writing and TV reporting roles. So when you see someone who looks like you doing something, that's kind of what you imagine you can do, especially as a kid. So I immediately dove into writing and reporting, and that is the path I set myself on. I started my own motorsports blog and started writing about and interviewing different racing drivers. And early on, when I was in high school, I was doing a lot of unpaid work. Now, as an adult with all of my lived experience in the industry, I would say, hey, try to get paid for your work. You're working and it's important to be compensated for it. But at the time, I was just a kid and I didn't know any better. And it ultimately landed me in some good spots. When I was a teenager, I used my age and my expertise to get gigs. One of my first paying gigs was with Speed Sport magazine. An editor over there named Adam Fenwick reached out to me because I grew up around Texas World Speedway, this old defunct NASCAR track that was gonna get torn down and turned into a neighborhood eventually. And because of my proximity, my lived experience with the track, and everything else, they asked me to write this story. And it was the coolest thing ever. That was 2015 when I was 19 years old. Before that, in 2014, I actually went to X Games Austin kind of for myself and those little unpaid blogs I was writing for. It was the weekend of my high school graduation. And I remember I went to X Games Thursday and Friday, graduated high school on Saturday, and then went back to X Games on Sunday. It was the coolest thing in the world. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it. The second big paid gig I got was with Autoweek magazine. At this time, Autoweek had a print version, which they don't anymore, and they also had this annual issue called the Under 30 issue. I was 19 at the time, which made me really well positioned for this issue because I was way under 30 years old. And they were also looking for someone who could write about Red Bull Global Rallycross. Global Rallycross doesn't exist anymore, but at the time, I wrote about it all the time. And I remember I reached out to Ken Block's team and I sent them email after email after email trying to prove I wasn't just some high school kid and I really needed to get an interview with him for Autoweek magazine. I went into each of these emails with the utmost confidence, even though I was not getting anywhere. And you know what? I eventually got to talk to Ken Block and he was such a kind man. It turned out wonderfully and I was so happy with it. And I think this was a really important thing that set me apart at the time because I wanted to be in NASCAR. But the NASCAR landscape was really crowded, so I didn't dive straight into it. I went with a lower series. I did a little bit of NASCAR here and there, but I really specialized in a lower series with fewer reporters so that I could set myself apart and get more interviews and get more attention on myself. And it ended up getting me an Autoweek, which is cool. Things really got rolling for me after those first 2 magazine features. I went to college at the University of Texas, and I had a professor who actually worked with someone who would end up employing me. Jalopnik, which was a major automotive website, was looking for a weekend editor, and my professor had worked with Patrick George, who was hiring for that role. So here I am at 19 years old, they're looking for a weekend editor, someone to do everything every weekend, and my professor recommended me for it. A few weeks later, I had the job, and from 2015 to 2017, when I got hired full-time at Jalopnik, I think I missed 2 or 3 weekends total. I was working so much, which I don't recommend. Live your life. I eventually left Jalopnik for a higher paying job at Business Insider. And for a couple of years here, I actually was not doing cars and motorsports at my day job. I was editing stories about food and amusement parks and all kinds of other stuff. And I did cars and motorsports freelance. And this was actually some of the most peaceful time I had in my career because from 9 to 5, I got to relax and rejuvenate and do stuff that wasn't my living, breathing passion, while also fulfilling that itch on the side. And it was honestly great. Business Insider, I did awesome traffic there. I was one of the top employees there in terms of traffic. But when budget cuts came, I was in the wrong salary bracket. So who got laid off? Me. I got laid off on the day I filmed my first video with Doug DeMuro. And this would turn into a stint at his car auction website called Cars and Bids. And this just goes to show you that you never know what is going on with someone in a YouTube video. Because if you go back and you watch those videos of me and Doug, you would never know I got laid off that morning. After Cars and Bids, I transitioned to Motor One and the Motorsport Network. But when I did that first video with Doug, my husband and I looked at each other and we said, we should start our own thing on YouTube. That brings us to our second topic, which is what specific skills you need to write about cars or make long-form videos about them, and how to actually monetize that work. We're gonna start with writing, which is what I've done for many, many years. Something that's really, really important about writing about cars is having skills that differentiate you from the other people who do it. Most people think that writing about cars is just reviewing them or writing your opinions about them, when really the backbone of any car website is news. That's where you get your traffic. So you need news reporting skills and also investigative reporting skills. You need to know how to do the basics, how to dig into something and talk to people and find things that you're not supposed to find. And that sets you apart because most of the other people don't have that. Now let's talk about long-form video skills. I will start this by saying that in order to make a YouTube channel profitable and sustainable financially, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. I'd been wanting to start this YouTube channel for years, but every time my husband and I talked about it, we were just like, man, we are going to run at a deficit because we're gonna have to lose someone's salary for years in order to put the time and effort into this, and we are not going to make that money back quickly. That's just a reality of how this works. I bring the presenting skills and also the writing and the fact checking, whereas my husband brings photography and videography into the mix. The paired skills we bring are headline writing, SEO, search engine optimization. You want to make sure your videos can be found on YouTube and Google. We also have to talk to sponsors and sell video ads and all kinds of things like that. So we have to be this full package in order to just make a two-person YouTube operation work. It is not easy, but if you have that right mix of skills, you can do a good job. And one of the sponsors we have for this channel is Apex Coffee Roasters. Everybody at Apex is wonderful and they make this great coffee. We drink it every single day while we are filming and editing all of these videos. And if you want to try it for yourself, you can use code Alanis for 15% off at checkout. Now, I'm gonna take this hat off just temporarily because I'm backlit and y'all keep telling me you want to see my eyes. So here they are. This all sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. I go to my day job at Motor One and the Motorsport Network from 9 to 5, and then at night and on weekends, I am writing scripts and filming for y'all. We also live in Texas, so it is 105 degrees outside in the summer, so we have to film at either dawn or dusk, like it is right now, and I have to try not to sweat. It's also a financial investment. We have a Lumix camera that we're shooting on. We have video microphones, voiceover microphones, lenses, and we have filters for the lenses. We have motion cameras, GoPros, everything. You have to buy all of this stuff, and you have editing software too. So you have to put in a bunch of money, and for a long time, that money doesn't come back out. Because although you would think that having a YouTube channel and getting decent views gets you a big payday, it doesn't. In order to get a decent payday, you have to have a ton of views. On the money side of things, the truth is that unless you're independently wealthy or you have this magical financial background from somewhere, you are probably going to need to have a day job first. That day job can either be a normal day job where you do spreadsheets all day and maybe you run a YouTube channel on the side, or it can be a day job in the car industry where you can work and get those networking opportunities and all of that during the day, and then work on yourself on the side. These day jobs can be in anything: PR, writing, video, editing, production, anything like that. I've been doing day jobs from 9 to 5 since I started full-time in this industry, since 2017. And if your goal is to eventually go on your own, hopefully, after many years of doing that, you can. That brings us to our third segment, which is networking. This segment is going to be short but very important because I feel like growing up, I was always taught that networking was about selling yourself. But we are in a different era now. We are in an era where phones and social media make everyone available all of the time for personal and professional needs. And when everybody is available all the time and has messages everywhere, you really have to prioritize the person over selling yourself. The main idea here is that, at least in my generation, which is growing up in the 2000s in America, we were taught that networking was a transactional thing. You show someone what you can offer them, and they hopefully offer you something back. And I don't feel like that's the case anymore. Networking has to be just a loose bond you have with people, and you have to actually enjoy it, because as professional and personal lives just mix online and in person, you've got to have these relationships that are more than just transactions. Our fourth segment is how to build a personal brand online. And when I was younger, I thought this would just happen naturally. I worked for Jalopnik. We had so much reach. People would just naturally find me and follow me, and I would be great. No, that is not how this works. Personal brands usually don't just come naturally. You have to build them up yourself. But they are very, very valuable when you have them, because if I get a job, that job knows that I can bring them quite a bit of traffic when I post links to my work for them. Also, having reach is the entire backbone of your YouTube AdSense money. So if I have people clicking videos, I make more AdSense money. If I don't have that, then I don't make AdSense money. The personal brand is a big deal. But personal brands, again, aren't transactional, just like networking isn't transactional. They are a personal bond with your entire audience, and I feel like that's really important. When I review a car, I always get in the trunk of the car, and every time people watch the video, they comment to say they're excited to see how many Alanis's can fit in the trunk of a car. I give them an expectation, they're excited for it, and the people in the comments can converse about it. It creates a community, and that's a really, really cool thing. I have communities that I'm part of online, and it makes me feel good, and that's kind of the goal. The internet is very crowded, and it's hard to stand out, which is why when we started this channel, my husband and I were like, what can we do to make us different? And our answer was, let's do car reviews, but let's make them really high quality, put a lot of music in them, and do these really deep dives into history, and also get in the trunk, because there are a lot of people out there. You have to show people why they need to pay attention to you, and that's the bottom line. That brings us to our fifth and final segment, which is, what is it like to review cars and go to motorsports events and generally do all of this for a living? And also, what does it mean to have a dream job? And I want to back up to a couple of months ago. My husband and I got invited to our first automaker event as a YouTube channel. It was a Mazda Miata ND3 drive in San Francisco. And we're driving around in the California mountains, and he looks at me and he goes, today is so many miles better than the best day I had at my old job. But this is just a normal day for you. And I was like, yeah, that really makes you think, this is such an amazing job, and it is so cool that I get to do this. And it's really important to be in the moment and be present and remember that. Because at the end of the day, I get to drive around in cars and go to races and do stuff and bring that stuff to y'all. And that is what I always dreamed of doing, and I finally get to do it. And it's amazing. But that being said, there are elements of this job that are just job things. It's stressful. Sometimes there's a tendency to overwork you. And also, people make more excuses for overworking you when you have a dream job, because it's supposed to be a dream job. And my advice to everyone, especially when you're young and you're starting out in an industry like this, is to remember that dream jobs are still jobs, and you have a life to live outside of that job. And if your job wants to overwork you, sit back and go, no, I need to stop and not put all of my hours and all of my life into this, because jobs don't last forever and you need to live your life. My advice to people, and honestly to kids, is to have a dream job if you want to have a dream job, but you don't have to. Find what you love and what you enjoy doing, whether that's a job or a hobby, and just enjoy your life. You're here to live, you're not here to work. And if working makes your life better, that's awesome. But working can also just be something you do to support the rest of your life. It's totally okay. And I think you should be happy with yourself if you are enjoying your life. That's really the only baseline. You also have to remember that if you have a dream job, getting that dream job is not the end all be all. You can lose that dream job. And imagine you put all of this worth and effort and everything into one job, and then you get laid off or you get fired or something happens and everything comes crashing down. You want to have a life outside of your job because you are defined by who you are, not by what you do for a living. We all only get one life, and we do not live to work. We live to live. You deserve joy no matter what your job is, and that's what you need to remember. I've been around for almost 30 years. I did not just fall out of the coconut tree. And in that time, I feel like I've learned a lot about life and work. I hope to learn a lot more in the next 30 years, and I hope that you learned something from this video today. If you want to subscribe and be along for the journey, please feel free to. If you want to like this video, that would be awesome. I will be in the comments to talk to you, and I hope to see you around a lot more in the future. Bye!